Hey folks, I'm Gene Delasala, president of Audioholics. We have a very special treat for you today. We are reviewing the Monoprice Monolith series of amplifiers. Now, when I say Monoprice, you probably don't think of the word amplifiers too much because you think of inexpensive cables and accessories. But let me tell you something, over the last year or so, they've really taken high-end audio seriously. First with their speaker line that we've reviewed previously, and now with these series of amplifiers. So we looked at two of their models of the Monolith series. The Monolith 2, which is a 2-channel, retails for $1,000, and the Monolith 7, which is a 7-channel, retails for $1,500. Now they've got a 2-channel, 3-channel, 5-channel, and 7-channel version of the same amplifier. It's basically the same modules. You know, they just size the power supply differently depending on how many channels it has. But let me tell you, really the best bet when it comes to value for these amplifiers. I mean, they're all a good value because I'll talk to you about the design and how it performs. But dollar for dollar, if you go with the 2-channel version, it's costing you $500 a channel as opposed to the 5-channel version, or I'm sorry, the 7-channel version. It's only costing you like $214 a channel. So when you add up the cost factor, you're really better off going with the 5 or 7-channel, using those extra channels either to power additional speakers in your home theater or for bi-amping. For a few $100 more, guys, I really don't recommend just going with the 2-channel. I'd go with the 5 or 7-channel because you never know when you could use more amplification, and these amplifiers have plenty of juice to meet your needs from now and into the future. So let me go over some of this about this amplifier design. There's no secret anymore. I mean, these are designed by ATI. ATI is a very reputable company. You know, they design amplifiers for Outlaw Audio. They've designed amplifiers for Lexicon. They've designed amplifiers for a lot of high-end companies that cost thousands of dollars more than what Monoprice is selling their amplifier versions for. So this is a time-tested design by a very reputable engineering company, and it's something that you can be proud of. Don't just get stuck with the name Monoprice in your head thinking it's not going to be high-end, because that's BS. You've got some high-end components in this, and let me tell you about some of the high-end stuff in this. So basically, they use a monoblock construction. That means each channel has its own heatsink. It's got its own output devices, got its own filter regulation. And in fact, I looked very closely at the design. There's 4 5600 microfarad capacitors per channel. These are 80 volt capacitors, okay? So when they're all in parallel, they yield 22,400 microfarads. That really cuts down on the ripple voltage. It gives you a lot of dynamics, which we'll talk about, for basically sustained power. But the cool thing is all the parts are 80 degrees C parts. I'm sorry, 85 degrees C. And what that does is that gives you more longevity. I mean, a lot of cheap components will give you 70 degree parts. 85, that's 15 degrees Celsius more. That means it'll handle heat longer, it'll last longer. That's something to look closely for that most people don't look at. And I looked at the internals of this amp and it was pretty impressive, especially for the price. So there's 6 output devices per channel with large extruded aluminum heat sinks. There's a lot of space in the amp, so there's plenty of ventilation. There's no need for noisy fans. In fact, I pounded these amps on my Status AT speakers, which dip down to 2 ohms, cranking it out, and the amps just got warm to the touch. I mean, I never had a problem with them overheating. I left them in my rack and it was fine. It's a Class AB design. The 2-channel has an 800 VA transformer, which is plenty of juice for 2 channels. The 5 and 7-channel versions have 2 transformers in them, a 1230 VA and a 1025 VA transformer. And again, if you do the calculations like I did, this is plenty of juice to give you the 200 watt per channel times 7, all channels driven, and 300 watts times 7 into 4 ohms. So there's no fudging numbers here, guys. They use chassis mounted connectors instead of PCB mounted for firmer connection. I mean, just the little details like this really stand out. They have a soft start circuit, which eliminates large inrush currents when you turn the amplifier on, which is great because it won't trip your breakers. And if you plug it into a power conditioner, it's not going to overload your power conditioner. And you don't have a pop sound with your speakers when you turn it on. There's a muting circuit in it. So by the time it powers up, then the power goes to your speaker. You don't have any problems with hearing a popping sound like you do with some amplifiers during startup. As far as where this is built, if you look at the back panel, it says designed and engineered in the US. And initially I thought, well, that must mean that they're manufacturing them overseas to save money. And I went back and forth with Monoprice, and they assured me that that's not the case. These are built in the same plants in California that ATI amplifiers are built. So they are built in the US. They do have FCC certification on them. Monoprice told me they got to update the silk screening on the next batch of amplifiers that they run. So by the time you watch this video, maybe you'll have the amplifier that says not only designed and engineered, but made in the US, and then you'll see the regulatory marks on it as well. It's in the owner's manual, so that's a good sign right there. So let me give you a little bit more tech specs about this amplifier. I measured a voltage gain of 28.8 dB. I think the spec was around 28 or 29 dB. What that means is you can drive this amplifier at full rated power with only about 1.4, 1.5 volts RMS. That's a relief, because we've been finding a lot of these AV receivers that have been coming out lately haven't been giving you a lot of voltage drive, especially the Yamahas. They clip at around 1.5, 1.7 volts. So this is the kind of amplifier you can mate with those receivers and still reach full rated power and not have a problem with clipping the preamp before that happens. So there's plenty of voltage gain. This will work with a wide variety of preamps. It'll work with a wide variety of receivers with preamp outputs. Don't worry about that, guys. You're covered here with this. I looked at all the measurements that Monoprice provided, and I was able to basically confirm or exceed every rating, especially the power ratings. 200 watts at 8 ohms, I measured at very low distortion. I measured 337 watts at 4 ohms with 2 channels driven. This is the 2-channel version of the amplifier at very low distortion. We have a full barrage of test reports in the written review. I recommend you guys take a look at it. I'll throw up the table here of the power measurements. I've done dynamic power tests. And again, because of the large power supply, there's plenty of dynamic headroom in this amplifier, and it's very impressive. And you can hear it. You can hear it when you're listening to loud music during transients. It's not compressing, it's not distorting. You're getting a real meaty amplifier. When they say 200 watts, it's a real 200 watts. It's not some dynamic BS that you've been seeing in some of the receivers. I did some listening tests, some extensive listening tests on my Status AT speakers. I basically disconnected my Emotiva XPR1 1 kilowatt monoblock amplifiers, and I put this Monoprice 2-channel amp in its place. And let me tell you, I didn't miss my Emotivas. That's how good this amplifier was. I was listening to vinyl, I was listening to SACD, and I was thoroughly impressed. The bass transients were great. The bass was very tight. The music was effortless. The noise floor in this amplifier is very low. In fact, when I measured it, you could see the measurements were very impressive. It's just a great sounding amp, guys. This is what happens when you get well-engineered, time-tested amplifier design, and now you're getting it at a very good cost because it's going through the Monoprice name. Now, there are a couple of downsides. They're not huge showstoppers, but let me just discuss some of the things that I found that I would like to see maybe rectified or improved in the next generation of amplifiers. The 2 and 3 channel versions I don't think are as economical as the 5 and 7 channel. That's just semantics. It's what you guys determine as value. None of the models have balanced inputs, and that's a little bit of a pet peeve for me, because coming from the telecom industry, I like to do everything balanced and differential. So really, the person that's buying this amplifier is probably going to mate it with an AV receiver anyways, and AV receivers typically don't have balanced outputs, so you're probably going to be okay. The other thing I found too is the speaker terminals are really closely spaced together. So if you're trying to terminate some exotic cables, like I had some Kimber 8PRs or 8TCs with the compression banana screw plugs, and it was very tight. I mean, there was not much spacing between the plus and minus terminals. So just be leery, be cautious of that when you're terminating your cables. Make sure you choose cables that don't require a lot of footprint on the terminations, and you'll be fine. The other thing is a 5-year warranty replacement on this amplifier, which is very generous for electronics. And you've got a 30-day money-back trial offer on it as well. So Monoprice is really going out of their way. They're really showing us how serious they are about offering well-engineered, well-built, economical amplifier designs. So if I were Emotiva and Outlaw right now, I'd be a little bit worried, because now there's a new player in the town, and these guys are really offering a compelling solution here. Very impressed with this amplifier. I think you'll be impressed with it as well. So check it out. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you own this amplifier. I'd like to hear your experiences with it as well. And please share this video. Share it on social media. Share the wealth. Tell your friends about it. Let us know what you'd like for us to cover next, whether it's a review or a topic. I'm listening, so just write it down below in the comment section. And guys, until next time, keep listening.